Okay, so obviously I saw the guarding video,
Yeah.
and I saw Willow correcting Bowie at the top of the stairs there.
Yeah.
So, and then you had mentioned that you started to do some substitution with the resource control.
Yep.
So, like what circumstances or situations are you doing that, and how is it going?
So the only time that I've done it, so he gets aggressive with yeah, like resources and things. So I have these like teething rings that are like bones, and when he has one, he gets super aggressive with it. But then also, you know, sometimes it's toys, but it's very random. It's not consistent that he's aggressive with toys. It's every once in a while he will be like that, or he'll get like that with a sock of all things. You know, some socks doesn't do it, and other socks he does. He's very inconsistent about his aggression.
Okay, so with the toys versus, so it's a teething ring. Is that what you're giving him that he really guards?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, and how old is Bowie again? I'm sorry.
His paperwork said 13 weeks and 6 days, but it's been another week, so
Okay.
14 weeks.
So he still has puppy teeth.
Oh, he does. Yes. Yes, my hand is
Yeah, friggin'
has the
razors,
marks
I
of the
tell you.
puppy.
All right, so now trying to think back, try to compare, and we'll use the word aggression, his level of aggression with the teething ring compared to just a regular toy.
So a regular toy, I would say his aggression is probably like a 3.
Now, when you say aggression, is it posturing, vocalization, things like that?
Yeah. He's a very vocal growler.
Yep. Okay.
But hey, Bowie. But his stance is a little different with his other toys. You can kind of tell, like, he's playing rough, but he's still playing because his little butt's in the air and his tail's kind of going.
That's kind of where I was going with this.
Yep.
Okay. So the toy stuff is probably not guarding. He could just be a vocal player. You know, he's just, you know, he's vocal when he plays. Whereas the guarding with the nylabone or the O-ring, whatever it is he'll stiffen up. Does he start eyeballing you kind of side eye?
Yes.
Okay.
And his little snoot gets all crinkly, shows his teeth, and then snaps at you. He snaps.
Yeah.
He caught me once, but only once, because then I learned that that's what he was doing. But but he'll snap at you. Okay. And he goes to a corner almost to protect himself. He like puts a wall between you and the toy, basically, or the teething.
Okay, so he kind of faces the wall with your back to him.
Yeah, you know, like he'll snap back at you.
Okay, all right. So, for lack of a better word, that's good.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's not great, don't get me wrong, but the fact that he is guarding as opposed, you know, there's a big difference between resource guarding and resource aggression. Resource aggression is usually when dogs will abandon the resource to protect it. Again, with a young puppy, it's not good that he's doing this, but it gives us space to work with safely, obviously. You know, because I mean, the fact is, those puppy teeth, even if his intent wasn't to resource guard, they still rip open our skin. So walk me through how you've been doing the substitution with, you know, I guess trying to work through the resource guarding.
So what I'll do is I'll give him the teething ring, and then once he starts guarding it, his favorite thing is peanut butter. Like treats he doesn't respond to as much, you know, like he's not giving up that bone for a treat.
Okay.
But I've just put a little bit of peanut butter on a plastic lid or anywhere really in a bowl. And so I go over with it and I catch his interest, and then I'll say, oh, you know, like, you know, I'll just talk to him and I'll start petting him first so that he knows that I'm there and I'm touching him and everything before I touch any, you know, the bone.
Right.
And then he'll drop the bone and come for the peanut butter. And then I pick the bone up, I take the peanut butter away, I show him, and I give it back to him. Just it's okay, you can have it back.
Okay.
He takes it back, and then I repeat that a couple of times.
Okay.
And you know, with his food, he started to develop a little bit of food aggression. So what I started doing, I saw a video online, you can tell me if this is wrong or not, but his food bowl, I just put a couple of pieces in and I gave it to him. Then I took the bowl back and I put a little bit more in, and then I put the bowl down, and as he's eating, I take it away and I pour more in and put it back down. And I keep taking it away from him, but putting a little bit more in, and then I just let him eat. And then he'll let me take it away at any time after that.
As long
So
as it's empty.
he wouldn't protect it at that point.
As long as it's empty, right?
Well, no, even if after I've done that a few times and I've poured more in, if I take it from him, he just sits and waits. He thinks it's like a treat, and I give it back to him.
Okay.
But it stops his aggression. But unless I kind of show him, I'm going to add a little bit, but take it away each time, he'll go full aggression if I don't do that.
Okay.
So,
And are you putting the food bowl down, or you're holding it in your hands?
usually I'll keep my hand on it.
Okay.
Should I take my hand away?
No, I'm thinking hold the bowl.
Hold the bowl.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Don't allow him to claim it as his.
Okay.
Right. So obviously, and you're going to have to make a decision based on what you observe as far as keeping your hands safe. But usually in these circumstances, if we're holding the bowl and we're putting the food in while he's eating, we're not going to have any issues.
Okay.
Right. Because it's yours, but you're still providing him with his food resource.
Okay.
Now, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, because then feeding is not just pouring food in a bowl and then we can go do our stuff, go do whatever we have to do around the house. We have to sit there for a few minutes and let him eat. But the whole objective, you're on the right track. All the stuff you're doing is good. The whole objective is that obviously we kind of segue at some point in his life to an out or a drop it or leave it command if he starts to exhibit any kind of tense body language. But for now, it's all about creating a positive association with us, with his resources. And the fact that, especially with the teething ring, I mean, that is perfect what you're doing. The mistake people often make is they substitute and they never give the resource back.
Okay.
So you're on the right track there. At least that's my mindset as well, because I don't want the dog, any dog, to feel deprivation if they release their resource. We want it to just be part of how they interact with us, right? For trust reasons, for positive association with us around their resources. I would say this though, for now, you could continue to work with the O-ring, but you might want to eliminate that from his life temporarily.
Yeah.
Right. Because it sounds like that's the big trigger. As far as
that's definitely the thing that started it, which is so odd. I mean, they're all different, but his sister Daisy, who I just had also, that was the thing that stopped her from biting people. Like but she would never get aggressive with it. But he's just a whole other bag of tricks, this one.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And, sometimes what helps too, because it probably feels good, right? It alleviates pain.
Yeah.
So if he's in pain, he's gnawing on this thing, he doesn't want, it's his, and et cetera. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but, for now, I think we should just eliminate that, just remove it from his life right now. Now, the flip side of that, we have to give him something to chew on. One thing I recommend, which is kind of counterintuitive because we're actually going to be increasing the value of the resource, but recreational chew treats like maybe a duck foot or a chicken foot or maybe a small lamb ear. I recommend those things because obviously he ingests it. It's going to help with pain, but because he's going to ingest it, it's going to be gone. So we can give him recreational chew sessions in his crate, and we don't have to be right on top of him just for the pain aspect and the recreational chewing aspect, because that's something that's important for teething puppies.
Yeah.
But we don't want to give him an opportunity to have to guard it, right?
Yep.
So you could, and they're cheap, I mean, little lamb ears, duck feet, they're usually like $1. So they're not terribly expensive. And then now with feeding, do you feed him in the crate or are you feeding him only by hand right now?
So we started over the last 2 days only doing it with our hand. So we have his little pen back here, That's not his crate. He sleeps in a crate in a different room at night. It's a full crate. It's an actual crate. We got this after the last few puppies that we had. Just a little bit of timeout is necessary sometimes, especially with him. You know, he'll get really like amped up and aggressive. We'll put him in there. He sits and he waits to be taken out. We only usually leave him in there for a couple of minutes, unless he starts to doze off. He's got a bed in there, we started by feeding him in there to keep him separate from Willow so that she could eat, because she's a grazer. She goes, she nibbles, and then she just walks around. And so we were a little worried that he was going to go at her food. But since then, we haven't done that. I've been feeding him by hand.
Okay. All right. So that little pen behind you, that could also be a good recreational chewing area.
Okay.
Right, because you probably need to keep him in there a little longer than a couple of minute clips.
Yeah.
It's great that he's sleeping in his crate, but especially for young puppies, and I mean any new dog that comes into a household, too much freedom too soon doesn't lead to good things.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
They start making decisions on their own, and the decisions they make often do not align with what we want from them. Right. Now, what I would recommend is do the chewing sessions in there. And, you know, if you wanted to still use the O-ring, I mean, you could, but like I said, let's hold off on that for now. Let's do some edible chew stuff that he can go in there. Even if I wouldn't do bully sticks. That might be a little too much for him at 14 weeks old.
You said lamb ears?
Yeah, lamb ears, they're like cow ears because they're mostly cartilage, but they're small, so they're a little bit better for puppies. And then duck feet. Duck feet are great. They crunch on them for a couple of minutes and that's it. You can get them online too. You can get them, you know.
So we have like tracheas.
Yes.
Tracheas. Is that okay? But they're small ones.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have trachea, that's one of my favorite treats.
Yep.
I just wasn't sure how he would handle depending on the circumference of the trachea, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, trachea, that's one of my favorites, especially for young puppies, because, you know, again, it's animal part, so it's easily digestible.
Yeah, that's why we got it for Willow, because she would, like Nyla bones and stuff, she will plow through those.
Yeah.
And it's not, we just wanted to have it just be animal products.
Right. Yeah. I usually get like the 12-inch trachea, and I actually cut them up myself because I have so many freaking dogs here. It's cheaper to do it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, trachea are excellent. Best Bully Sticks has a lot of nice products.
Okay.
Bestbullysticks.com. I actually have a link. I'll send it through the chat.
Oh, you're not even showing your face over here.
So I have some products on my website that they route you right to Best Bully Stick, so you can see some of the things I was talking about, including the trachea. But I've been dealing with them for a long time, and I am an affiliate with them. So full disclosure, I get a whopping 1% if you click on the link on my website. Yep. So yeah, all right. So that because he does need timeout. Also, I hate to use the word timeout, but for lack of a better word.
Oh, he needs timeout. Yeah. Before
he spikes is very important.
Okay.
Right, because think about when he spikes, he's just playing. Yeah. So now he's going to associate this happy state of mind with being isolated and confined, right?
Yeah.
Now it's okay if we have to react to that if we can't work with him, as long as he's put into the pen positively, obviously with a true treat. But you probably are underutilizing the pen, so try to think about times of day, because usually it's pretty consistent with puppies, either times of day or after moments of rest. They're going to spike and get the zoomies and be lunatics, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like right now you're petting him and he's relaxed, I'm guessing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
He's down here.
Yeah. So after, you know, if he continues to be relaxed through the duration of our call, when we hang up, if you have a trachea, especially, put him in the pen with a trachea right after this, because now he's going in there, he's relaxed, and he's getting a super high value reward. So this way, the pen is just part of his life. We're not putting him in there for a specific reason or change in state of mind.
Okay.
Right? Just as matter of fact as possible.
Yeah, we've
especially now
definitely been using it in more of a reactive phase than
yeah,
proactive, for sure.
yeah. And now, are you fostering or adopting him?
Oh, we're fostering this guy.
Okay, all right. No, it's good for me to know, just so I understand, because ha restricting his freedom is going to help his next stop in life.
Yeah.
Right? Because, we don't know, wherever he winds up being adopted, we don't know what their schedule is. We don't know how long he's going to be confined during the day. So this will also help build up his acclimation to being, confined for longer periods of time.
Okay.
I mean, if you can get him up to an hour or two during the day of being confined, that would be helpful for his future.
Yeah.
And your peace of mind now.
Is it 1 hour consecutively that we should build him up to? Like 1 hour consecutively in there? Or in increments,
No, yeah, I mean, if you want to do like every hour on the hour, that would be a good goal. Initially, it's just what's the longest he's been in there? You said a couple of minutes?
So that's up here, but during the work week, like the day starts with him waking up and, going outside and having his breakfast, and, he spends a little bit of time with my family while I start work. Then he comes downstairs, he goes into the same one. I have another one in my office.
Okay.
And so he goes directly into the pen there. He almost always goes right to sleep. Like, he fusses and he wants to be with me, but he'll go to sleep, and he'll sleep for about an hour and a half or so. He gets up, comes up here, goes outside and plays, does his business. And, he's during the week, his routine is playing, but going back in, but it's primarily where he ends up sleeping. So I don't know if that's good or not, but he just
Okay.
usually passes out. So
Okay, so he goes in on his own?
no, I put him in. This one
Okay.
has a door. Downstairs doesn't have a door.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the door. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So he is in the crate then for a little while during the day.
Yes.
Confined.
On
Okay.
the weekends, he's not as much. On the weekends, I would say we use it when he's just going crazy. We'll put him in. But
Okay.
during the week, Monday through Friday, or this past week, we've only had him for a week, but
Right.
he goes in there throughout the day, and that's where he sleeps. And so
Okay, good.
I would say that he probably spends 4 hours each day in it during the week.
Oh, okay, good. So the only change you have to make is on the weekend then.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So we have to be more consistent, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, and you think about, wherever he's going to wind up, in all likelihood, his most active time of the week will probably be on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yeah.
Unless someone works from home and they have dogs out all day. But again, as foster, obviously I'm a trainer, but I also have my own rescue, and I've fostered for other rescues. We have a job to do, so we got to make sure that we do that job 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Not 5 days a week, but
Yeah.
which, and aside from his aggression, I'm sure you absolutely adore him, and he's fun to play with and all that stuff. So it's, there's some emotions attached to it, but sometimes we have to detach ourselves and think more, we got a job to do kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, we when we started fostering, we knew we had a job to do. I mean, we've taught him to sit.
Good.
We teach him. Taught him to do the stairs. Things that he might have to learn in his, or be ready to do in his next house if someone doesn't have the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy has been a little bit different. He's just needed a little bit more. He's our first boy also. So,
Okay. Right.
But, one of the things that I also wondered about is, should he be on a sleep schedule? I know that sounds really strange, but he like right now he's asleep, or pretty much asleep on his own. But should, when I read that puppies are supposed to get like 18 to 20 hours of sleep, and should he be on a sleep schedule like a baby, or no?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to put him on a sleep schedule because that's going to change with his environment.
I know.
So,
I know.
I mean, all dogs, puppies obviously need more rest because they're more active too when they're up. But yeah, I mean, it's okay if he self-regulates, right? I think the key here is, again, just the confinement associated with changes in his state of mind. is the main thing that we want to it's kind of like a preemptive strike. We don't want confinement associated with his spikes. Because remember, I mean, aside from his resource guarding, his spikes and energy are just that, right? And they're generally happy, right? Puppies get the zoomies, they're happy, they're zipping around, right? And then they're being confined for that reason, right? So if we're doing it prior to that, and ideally, when we feel like they're going to start getting the zoomies, the best response for us is to get them working or playing, so they're not overreacting to their stimulation, their spikes and stimulation by mouthing and targeting us, because that's what puppies do. They target hands and feet and stuff. Now, the fact that you taught him sit already is good, and he likes playing with toys generally, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, you know, if you have some toys and just make him sit, toss a toy, or engage in some play. If you feel he tugs, but he's a little too intense, you can have 2 tugs with you, one that you engage and the other one to substitute. So he disengages from the other one and re-engages with the one you have in your hand. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, you know, like if you're tugging, and you could teach him a drop it or a leave it or out, something to disengage, present the new toy. Good boy, make him sit and then re-engage. Kind of like when we're teaching dogs fetch, we always have 2 or 3 tennis balls with us, because, you know, most dogs, they'll go get the tennis ball, but they may not bring it back because they understand it. So we need to kind of.
That's Willow. Yeah, she does not bring it back.
Or they bring it back and they won't let it go. So we have another ball to kind of substitute. And again, the same toy is important because they know it's 2 different things, but they're still getting more. Dropping and abandoning the one resource does not mean deprivation. It actually means more, right? And you know, when we work and play them simultaneously, that's always the best thing, because stimulating their mind while we exercise them is the, you know, that's the best tool we have at our disposal for puppy zoomies and teething and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tony, do you have anything that you wanted to chime in, or are we good?
One of the thoughts would be the interaction with Sarah's dog, Willow. I know that you saw the one video where Willow gave it back to him, but Sarah, didn't you say that Willow has sort of backed down a little bit now?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because when they are outside playing, Willow's an incredibly fast dog. She's a fast runner. You know, she's a true zoomer, and she'll knock him over. She'll be more aggressive outside, but when they're inside, he's very dominating. Like she will back down. She'll kind of you know, she goes downstairs, she gets away from him. She wants nothing to do with him. And you know, because there are times, you know, and she'll tell him when he bites too hard, or, you know, she'll snap back at him. She'll punish him for doing it. And I let them do it. I let her teach him not to do that to her. But it's funny because she really she does not like playing with him at all. And she's liked playing with the other dogs. And his sister Daisy was hyper aggressive, also, like in play, not like bad aggressive, but like a rough and tumble gal. And but there's been a few times where he's turned. Like you can tell his play is different. He got really nasty, his tail tucked under his butt, and he just was like the wrinkle in his face, you know, that what happened with the resources. And she cowered into the sofa, and she's not an alpha at all. There's nothing alpha about this dog at all. But it was just a real switch that happened when he did that. He got mean almost, and she didn't like it. It was not play anymore.
What was the circumstances surrounding that?
They were just playing in our living room. They were just roughhousing.
Okay.
There was no toy involved. There was nothing.
So the play just escalated?
Yes.
And then she corrected him and then ignored him?
No, so they were playing, and then it escalated where he got like that tucked tail, like his posture changed, and she just stopped. like, and she kind of cowered into the sofa, and he continued to go at her though.
Okay.
And I just went in and I made a lot of loud noises, and I was like, knock it off. You know, I didn't touch them because I was not putting my hands into that mix, but it hasn't happened since. But there was a time that he did that where she just, and now she basically, you know, they play. They've had other episodes of playing, but I don't know if she's not correcting him enough, or
Okay, so
I'm not.
So here's I mean, obviously we can allow that to go to see how she handles it.
Yeah.
Generally, there's two types of ways dogs set thresholds for each other. One is obviously vocalization and body language, air snapping, and obviously the escalation to that is sometimes physical, but the escalation to that is also sometimes to disengage completely.
Okay.
So it sounds like she could have been doing that too. Like maybe she corrected him and then she had enough.
Yeah.
Kind of like, you know, when people are trying to establish rules and boundaries in relationship with new dogs, you always want to start play and end play. We never want the dog to initiate play. We never want the dog to perpetuate play, right? So dogs do that too. They will go through a series of body language, vocalization, and interactions to set thresholds for play. So it's possible that that was just one of her progressions to say, all right, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And to completely disengage. Now, obviously you intervened. It only happened once, so we really don't know where it would have gone on. You know, but given his size and age and the fact that she is willing to correct him, you know, maybe just let it go a little longer just for informational purposes to see what exactly happens. It's not like he's going to maul her. I mean,
No,
you know, so you have something, Tony?
Yeah. Should Sarah, in monitoring that, would she be able to just get back to you on that Facebook Messenger? And if there are other issues or questions, because that's going to be a part of this too. Teaching him how to behave and have some puppy manners, right? Am I?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And just, you know, like all consults, I mean, you know, I always tell people at the end, get me video, continue with, you know, communicating, because, you know, I saw 2 videos, obviously, you know, like if I only saw the one at the top of the stairs, I'd be like, you're fine. But then I saw the resource guarding. I'm like, okay. Right. So we have 2 different scenarios. And the fact that she beats the hell out of him outside is great. Right. And now
he took a wallop this morning where he was like, she must have hit him in the face, but she'll pounce on him out there.
Right. And now the other side of this too is, does she normally play a lot in the house historically?
No, like when she's alone, no. No, I mean, she has her dollies that she likes, that whenever she gets a dolly, she'll play. But for the most part, play is outside. Like, you know, she has a pig. She likes to run. She's a very, like, she'll take our whole yard out, like just running and playing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's also, she could be setting thresholds and ceilings for play inside the house too, which is why she's disengaging.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of time they call them calming signals, where a dog might do something to lower the intensity of play or lower the intensity of any social interaction. Sometimes it's shaking, sometimes it's walking off and getting water. Sometimes it's just completely disengaging altogether. And basically that's telling the other party in the interaction, all right, enough, right?
Yeah.
So and this is the ideal situation, is they play, she corrects him a couple of times, he may back away, but he persists, she gets annoyed, she disengages in that cowering that you mentioned. We let it go to see how she's going to correct him next, because she should after she disengages, she should escalate again, and she may even muzzle punch him or paw him. No,
she's definitely pinned him to the ground. And put, like, you know, I can always tell she's just not an aggressive girl. She'll start out by pushing him down and then gnawing at his legs, or like around, like near his neck. He never whelps. She never hurts him, but she holds him down.
And that's like, I don't like, she almost needs to nail him.
She really does. She really does. But you know what it is that she just isn't that dog. You know, I think if we had a dog that was more of an alpha in the house, we wouldn't be having this situation.
Yeah, but and it's also been a week, right?
Yeah.
So for all we know, they're still figuring each other out, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's a puppy and he has a little edge to him, so of course he's going to see how far he could take things, right?
Yeah.
You know, and now if you can, obviously, like Tony had just mentioned, if you can get me video of them playing inside,
Okay.
that's super helpful. Ideally, hold the phone like this,
Okay.
so we can get both dogs in the frame of the picture, because but seeing both dogs head to tail helps me decipher and interpret what I'm seeing.
Okay.
From a body language standpoint.
Yep.
And then going back, I hate to jump back, going back to resource guarding and stuff.
Yeah.
When you're doing either substitution or even feeding, if you can get some chopped up get some hot dogs, or something super high value. And if you're using hot dogs, 100% beef, low sodium. You don't have to cook them. They're, hot dogs are already cooked crap thrown into a tube, but chop them up into little pieces. So we're adding a super high value food reward to any time we're doing positive association or desensitizing activities like feeding.
Yeah.
So when you're holding that bowl and pouring the food in, toss a hot dog in randomly. Because down the road a little bit, our segue to that is to have the food bowl down, him eating, and us going over there, putting that higher value resource in. So obviously the presence of humans and human hands and humans approaching his food bowl is not only more, but better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I was adding a little bit, but I mean, the peanut butter has been his high value, but that's harder to put into a bowl. So I will take a hot dog any day. That's so much like hit in the spoon. No, that's perfect. I absolutely can do that.
Yeah. And if you need to use the peanut butter for something, let's just say, and I'm bringing this up because we're eliminating the thing he's guarding most. That's not going to say he's not going to choose something else.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is, and it's usually for adult powerful breeds that I'm working with resource guarding, not necessarily puppies, but do you have a wooden pasta spoon?
Yeah.
That's great for peanut butter. It gives an extension of our hand if we need.
That's a good idea.
If we need to substitute, because self-preservation.
That's why I put the bowl, because he would go at the bowl and I would hold the top of it, or the plastic of Tupperware, because my hand could be farther away.
Right. Yeah. And the
wooden spoon's a way better idea.
It's a little easier to manipulate, and again gives us another 8 to 10 inches of protection.
That's a much better. I in the moment, because I started with my finger, I quickly learned that was a terrible idea. So I've just been grabbing anything in the kitchen, but I never thought of a wooden spoon. So
that's one. I mean, I do it for leash walking too. Like when I'm trying to leash walk small breeds, I'm trying to leash train them. I can't be bending over with a treat. I'm too old. So I use the wooden spoon because it gets me closer to their level.
Well, that's a good idea too. For, we haven't, the weather's, it just actually snowed here a couple of days ago, which is insane. But the weather hasn't been great this past week. It was pouring a few days to get him out walking on a leash. I've done it a few small walks around my front yard. He does do the typical, nope, I'm going to walk you, and puts the leash in his mouth, and then, or just says, no, this is a terrible idea. I'm not walking. So that's the next thing that once we have a few good days. He walks great when he's with Willow. He wants to be with her. He keeps pace. He knows what he's supposed to do. So I like taking them together, because all the puppies would be better with her. She's meant for this work. She doesn't think she is, but she's really a really good dog to bring fosters in the house. She's just been incredible with them, and very patient. And so I'm not sure how long this is, but one thing that I noticed about him is, and Tony, this may be something that is a conversation for Ronnie, is his legs are bowing and they shake all the time. And so I don't know if that's exhaustion. Like, is that too hard to play? Is that an indication to me that he needs a break, that he's playing too hard? You know, like he'll wake up from his nap and his legs won't be bowed as bad. And then it goes farther and farther out and then they start shaking. And I just don't know if that's exhaustion or what that is.
We've had that before where we've taken one of the puppies to the vet to double check on that. And it is very typical of them just beginning to grow and strengthen.
Yeah.
I assume it's that same thing. I will send you what I have on it and then you can read it and then tell me if it's different than what I'm thinking it is. It's the ligaments and all that. Jeff, have you had experience with that as well?
All the time, and it's not isolated to puppies. Because, you know, especially when, you know, when rescues or send dogs here, or I'm working a dog here on the property, that if they came like right out of a shelter or they came from living a life on a chain, they've never ran before in their lives. So they run and then they'll stop and you get a little twitch out of the leg because their muscles are pulsating. And even now, I mean, I'm 48 years old. I can't run like I used to, but I still try like an idiot. And my muscles will pulsate. It's actually very common. But again, from the bowing standpoint, it could just be, like Tony mentioned, a connective tissue strengthening and developing. But the twitching is often associated with overexertion, which usually works itself out as the muscles develop and mature.
The last I'm sorry. The last vet did say that they fully expected that within a few months they would pretty much outgrow that bowing as they grow and get nutrition, obviously.
Yeah, that was the other thing, is like he eats 3 times a day and he's so skinny. He's got these like tons of ribs. So I didn't know if it was something I could change in his food to kind of help with that, or you think it's just him. If it's just him growing, it's fine. He eats and he pees and poops an awful lot. So everything's moving just right.
Well, yeah, just keep in mind too, obviously, as he grows, he might be, you know, 15 pounds today and 18 pounds tomorrow. So his ration needs to increase accordingly. Number one. Number two, it's getting cooler out. Dogs and puppies often eat anywhere from 15 to 25% more in cooler weather. So, and then the flip side of it is you're going to be adding recreational chews to his life. So that's going to give him not just added calories, but added animal protein, which will also help well. So,
So are we safe in thinking that I can adopt this biting puppy out?
Oh yeah. You know, it's funny. He's changed quite a bit in a week, and he seemed almost like just a wild man in the beginning. You know, he couldn't settle himself. Everything was a bite. Nothing was a lick. You know, like he was just, but now it's like he licks, bites, lick, you know, like I'm seeing progression in his, in that type of stuff. And last night he let me snuggle him and hold him. You know, for the most part, he doesn't have any like real issues. Like it's just that those aggressive pieces that somebody I think just has to be conscious of. That's all we are. I mean, my kids are around him all the time. I don't protect my kids from him. You know, like I don't worry about my children. I don't worry about anything with him. I mean, my coffee table I'm worried about because he's starting to gnaw at that. But other than that, little destruction. But they've all been chipping away at it, starting with Willow 2 years ago when we got her as a puppy. But it's funny because my husband, who is here, he reminds me all the time that Willow did this. Like Willow used to bite my son's butt actually a lot, and I forgot about that. So yeah, he's definitely, you know, he's a good boy. He is. He's just terrible about stuff here. Let's see if you can see it.
Aww.
He's just been laying here the whole time, Mr. One Eye Blue, One Eye Brown.
I was just looking at it. He's part husky, huh?
I don't know what he is, but
Oh.
he's a big sleepy boy.
Yeah, I think, just given the fact that you're already doing a lot of the right things to move past this, number one. Number two, as he continues to the tail end of his teething, the pain is no longer going to be an issue, which is a huge problem because we often underestimate the value that pain has towards dogs overreacting, puppies specifically, right? So, but you're doing a lot of the right things, and it's only been a week, and if you can get me more video of kind of letting things go a little further with him and Willow, just so I could see her progression of how she's communicating to him to set boundaries inside the house. So, yeah, for sure.
I definitely can do that.
Yep.
No, this has been really helpful. That's good. We'll get those tracheas out and we'll get her built up in the pen even more, and doing, we'll hold the bowl. I'm just recapping for my husband who's sitting here.
You're gonna get a copy of the video too. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
just so we're consistent, because there are times that when I'm working that he's the one feeding him or caring for him, just to make sure we have that consistency.
Right. And life happens. If you really don't have 10 minutes to sit there and fiddle with the food bowl, you could put him in his pen and feed him. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's what he's also done. But the thing that I worry about is if he goes to a home that somebody doesn't have that past experience, or the normalizing factor that my husband reminding me that this used to happen to us. I'd really like to get, we'll definitely spend the time that he's here with the hot dogs and getting his food, because I think the last people that only had him for 2 days didn't even give him a chance, first off, to even see a week's worth of progress. That was the chair I was on, Tony, that I was snuggling him last night. They didn't even get to the snuggle point. And, the food aggression, it definitely concerns me a little bit. Didn't concern my husband as much, but if you don't have that person to say, hey, this is normal for a puppy, we just have to work through it. So I do want to make sure I work through that with him.
Yeah, and
those hot dogs.
That's everything that you're doing and going to be doing. They are easily, we can translate that easy to a new environment. You know what I mean? Because it's not a big deal for someone to put a food bowl down and throw a couple of hot dogs in or whatever when the dog is eating, right? And the most concerning behavior with the teething ring, our hope is that part of that is pain related and he'll grow out of it. But, everything we're talking about, anyone with common sense and a copy of this video can perpetuate what you're doing, right? So, keep doing what you're doing, add the things that we talked about. And again, keep me in the loop, get me any video you can, and we'll work through it together.